Hi, folks. I want to talk now about Emily Dickinson's poetry itself, just a little bit. I want to introduce you some to some of what was going on in her mind. Uh, if we can ever really know what's going on in anybody's mind, including our own, right? It's very fuzzy up there. Words are a wonderful way that we have of interpreting what's going on inside of us. Without words, it would be a little tough, wouldn't it, to explain? We couldn't explain to anybody else or to ourselves, really, what we're feeling. And Emily Dickinson worked with words. She was in love with words, as most of us who are writers are, and she loved playing with them and trying to get just as close to a precise definition of something that was going on inside of her or she was thinking about or inspired her. She wanted to get just as close and precise a definition of it as she possibly could. And as a result, she doesn't muck about in worrying about a lot of conventional structures like the sonnet structure or a villanelle or any kind of very traditional poetic structure. She mainly wants to encourage us to feel the excitement of the words themselves and the ideas. So let's take a look at a couple of the poems that we're going to be addressing. Let's start with um, the propsis, the house. Okay. And as you'll see in several of these poems, you might see some the spell check or the blue word document lines that show up that say you better recheck your grammar. There's something wrong. They happen all the time if you type in Emily Dickinson's work, because she had her own way of writing things, and she was okay with that, apparently. Let's take a look at what we have. The props assist the house until the house is built, and then the props withdraw and adequate, erect. The house support itself and cease to recollect the augur and the carpenter. Just such a retrospect had the perfected life, a past of plank and nail and slowness. Then the scaffolds drop, affirming it, a soul. So it's obvious in this particular poem that what she's doing is comparing the building of an individual, a person, to the building of a house. And you use whatever props you have, whatever can hold up things when you're building a house. If you've ever watched someone build a house or even build a wall or build something within your house, you know that there are different props to hold things up. But once the thing itself, the wall or a cabinet or something of that nature, once that's built and secured and steady, then you don't need a prop anymore. Then what you have is a finished piece. And she's comparing our lives to the building of a house, that we need a lot of props along the way to help us grow. And you can define whatever you define as props in your world that helped you. She doesn't tell us what those are because the props for you and the props for me are very different. The things that held us up as we are becoming or have become a soul are very, very different. And if she gave us specific things, then she would be talking about herself, but she's talking about the human condition. And so we can all relate to this. We can all see that there are things that kind of supported us until we realize, okay, I can stand on my own now. I can do this. Now I'm me. Now I am a soul. And that's what she's saying in this poem. And because she doesn't give us specifics about her own life, she makes it a very universal concept that's happening here. Let's look at another one. This is another, you see the underlinings in the blues. You see what I mean? So in this poem, she's talking again about a house, a lot of house stuff in Emily Dickinson. Um, she's talking about a house, and she's saying that it's not only houses that are haunted, our brains can be haunted too. And don't tell me you don't know that. Your brain is haunted. You have things in your past that you don't want to remember. You just want to just make them go away, and you can make them go away for a little bit. But when you're not even expecting it, they pop up. And there are all kinds and manners of things, but it's almost ghostly. I was having a perfectly delightful lunch yesterday. This is me. A perfectly delightful lunch. I was having just a delicious tuna fish sandwich, exactly the way I like a tuna fish sandwich. I had made the tuna fish on toast, and it was white toast. It wasn't whole wheat because I decided I was not going to be that healthy that day, yesterday. So it was white toast, delicious tuna fish sandwich. I was sipping some really good, I had made actual lemonade. I'd squeezed lemons. I really went all out with lunch yesterday. And I was by myself, and I was just kind of having lunch, sitting, looking outside. The sun was shining. And out of nowhere, out of absolutely nowhere, I remembered the day my father died. I remember him lying in the bed. I remember all the busyness around him. And it was terrifying. It was both terrifying that it could come out of nowhere like a ghost, and also terrifying because I was living it again. And that was terrifying. You've had things like that, have you not? Listen to what Emily Dickinson says. One need not be a room. One need not be a chamber to be haunted. One need not be a house. The brain has corridors surpassing material place. Far safer of a midnight meeting external ghost than its interior confronting that cooler host. Far safer through an abbey gallop, the stones a chase, than unarmed oneself encounter in lonesome place. Ourself behind ourself concealed should startle most. Assassin hid in our apartment be horror's least. The body borrows a revolver, he bolts the door, or looking a superior specter or more. She's saying it's less terrifying to have somebody in a room with a gun, supposedly, or somebody or a ghost wandering through a corridor than it is to have those ghosts in the corridors of our minds. When you have a physical presence, you feel that there's something that you can do about it, or it has a beginning and it has an end. But if they're living inside of you, there is no end. And that's just terrifyingly, hauntingly scary. You don't need to be a house to be haunted, she says. So you see how, because she doesn't give us a specific information about her own life, that we can just put our world into it. Perhaps your father is still alive. Perhaps you don't have a father. Perhaps you have nobody who has died in your family. So you can't really relate to my story about my father dying. But I'm certain you have a ghost in your mind somewhere, because we all do. We're humans. That's part of the human condition. Let's look at one more poem for right now. And now we're going to another theme. But she's looking at nature, and she really thinks a lot about what is nature and what can we learn from nature. She loved plants, she loved botany. I'll talk about that another time, but she very meticulously kept what was called an herbarium, which had a lot of leaves and flowers from different plants around her home. And she labeled them, and she very, very carefully kept information about it. And she was fascinated by the natural world. And she's wondering, what can we learn from it as humans? I mean, humans are part of the natural world, but what does that mean? What can we learn? Nature is what we see: the hill, the afternoon, squirrel, eclipse, the bumblebee. Nay, nature is heaven. Nature is what we hear: the bobolink, the sea, thunder, the cricket. Mm, nay, nature is harmony. Nature is what we know. You have no art to say. So impotent our wisdom is to her simplicity. Nature can just be. And we're trying to say it's what we hear, it's what we see. But basically, what she's saying, it's something that we know, but we can't articulate. Our wisdom is kind of impotent in what nature really truly is. Um, Nature somehow is beyond us, transcends us. Is it harmony? Is it heaven? We really don't have the words to express what nature fully and truly is, she's saying. So that's a beginning look at a few of her poems and a little bit of her thinking, and her sense of, I guess, what was important. And that begs the question that I want to leave with you after this particular session. And that question is, what is important to you? Like, she's writing about what's happening inside her mind, about creating a soul, about finding a kind of rightness within her. She's also writing about the fact that there are corridors in her brain that have ghosts, those ghosts being memories, and oftentimes painful memories. She's also writing about nature and our connection to it as humans, and how we think we're great, we're humans, yay, human, but somehow we don't have the words to fully express what nature just does automatically. How great are we? Do we think we're greater than a dandelion? I don't know. So this is the beginning of looking at what really is going on inside of Emily Dickinson's mind and connecting to it somehow. And I want you to think about, how are you connected to some of these ideas? What do they mean to you? Because ultimately, anything we read is not really part of us until we think about how we're connected to it. So, how are you connected to it? More to come. Bye.